The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Welcome to Modern Business, the show that bridges the gap between viewer and entrepreneur. I'm your host, Taylor Bursey, and today we are joined by Shaylin Venedam of Port Perry Dance Academy. Welcome to the show, Shay.
Thank you very much.
So tell us, what is Port Perry Dance Academy?
So we're a dance studio that's located in Port Perry, the beautiful town, beautiful community of Port Perry. We were established in 2000. We offer both recreational and competitive programs all the way from 18 months all the way to 18 years. And we do offer some adult classes as well. So definitely all things dance.
And how did you get started in this?
So I definitely, my whole life, it's been all things dance. And so I danced with Port Perry Dance Academy ever since I was little. I was a competitive dancer all the way up until I was 17. When I graduated, I went to Ryerson University. It's now the Toronto Metropolitan University. And I got my BFA in performance dance. So I continued my career that way. And then as I was in university, I taught and I choreographed at the Port Perry Dance Academy. So before I took over the studio, I had about just over 10 years of teaching and choreography experience. And then the previous owners who had owned it for about 20 years at that point, they approached me and they knew I had a passion for the studio and had like a full life at the studio, and they wanted to see if I would be interested in purchasing the business. And they really wanted to kind of, if they could, hand it over to someone that had just as much passion into the studio as they did.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And what was that takeover like? Did it come on quickly? You know, were you expecting it?
Yeah, so it was definitely a conversation we had had in the past. I would say timeline, like I didn't have a timeline established for that. It was something like I started to think about probably when I was in university, but I never knew when it would come to fruition. It was definitely a quick process when it happened. It was kind of like a whirlwind. I really just dove right in. Yeah, I really went head first. I had a lot of help. There was a lot of questions and I had a lot of learning to do. But when they approached me and I took a second to kind of think about it and think about my future and my future with the company, I wanted to do it 100%. So then I really just like dove right in with it.
And did you find it challenging to take over an already established business, or was it kind of like, okay, I have a roadmap, this is what I'll follow?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I was very grateful, very lucky to have the roadmap. I think it's probably a lot more difficult to take over a business or to start a business from scratch when you kind of had no roadmap. I think the things that really helped me is our faculty. They've all been on the faculty for like 15 plus years, and they all stuck through it with me and with the company, and I have a really great rapport with them, kind of working with them like employee to employee, so that they've been great. I had a great rapport with a lot of the clientele and the kids, the dancers. I've been teaching a lot of them since they were like itty bitty, so
Aww.
A lot of people knew me already and they felt comfortable with me. It was more so I was just transitioning into a new role with the company, but I definitely had a lot of learning to do on the business side and more of that side of it.
And I think when people look at your career as a dancer, look at your education, and look at the passion you've had for the industry, there's no doubt that you're wise beyond your years when it comes to dance. But when it comes to the practical application of the business aspect of it, you don't have the same level of experience. Not saying that you're not qualified or anything like that, but do you ever suffer from imposter syndrome at all?
That's a great question as well. Going into it, I thought I would experience more of that. I think it was a situation where I had to really just dive in and figure it out, that I didn't have a lot of time to like take a step back and be like, whoa, like this is like a crazy new role, and do I feel comfortable in it? Like I was really just thrown into it and like I had to do it, I had to focus. And it honestly felt a lot more natural and comfortable than I thought it was. I definitely had a lot to learn about the business, but I tried to take some time, all those new like business practices and like client portfolios and billing and all that stuff. I really took time to dive into every part of that of the business, just so I felt super comfortable. I knew kind of all hands of the business and all aspects of the business. And now, after having it for a year, I feel a lot more comfortable knowing the ins and outs, knowing all the questions, knowing all the answers. I definitely had to take it like step by step.
And when you dove into those avenues of the business, was it the previous owners showing you how that was happening, or the faculty, or a mix of both?
A little bit. I definitely had guidance from the previous owners, but it was definitely more of a situation of I had an idea of the practices and like the way the business was set up. It was more looking at the way it was set up and how can I make it my own? How can I make it make sense to me? And really getting through the nitty-gritty to not change things completely, but understand the systems that were in place, and then how can I apply those systems and just really make it make sense to me as the new business owner.
So when you got that phone call to take over the business and the deal was put in place and you were ready to make that transition, did you sit down and make a plan for, this is how I'm going to tackle it, these are the steps that I'm going to take as soon as I start? Or did you really lean into that whole idea of jump in and see what happens?
Yeah, I think I really leaned into the idea of jumping in head first. It was so quick once the turnover, the process happened, and we were like kind of going right into the next season. So I really just had to like jump in and take it as I went. The way the year goes, you have different kind of tasks, different like bigger major things throughout your season. So I really just focused on like each task as it came up, and as it had to be completed, and just tried to like break it down and understand each task before I really took on kind of anything major, changing anything. I really just kind of delved into kind of the mold that was already there and made like small changes along the way, but just kind of had to feel out all the business practices in my first year for sure, get an understanding of it.
And here's a curveball question for you.
Okay.
If somebody else was in your shoes and they were taking over an established business, would you suggest to them to just jump in and see how it goes? Or looking back, would you encourage them to make a plan?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it also depends on your personality. With me, I'm definitely more of an organized person, so I think if I had more time, I would have kind of made like a really detailed plan and like been super organized with kind of like, I don't know, like the little things here and there. But because it was such a fast turnover, I didn't have time to sit back for a while to really like think everything through.
Right.
But I'm definitely that kind of personality. I love to be organized, but because it was such like a short turnover period, I really was just like, okay, you're doing this, dive in. You have a lot of help along the way, like your family, your husband, and everyone. They're going to be there for you. And so I was just really like, okay, let's do it. And then I felt like I had to kind of just trust that momentum and just like go into it head first.
And you definitely had the advantage of being surrounded by the business for a significant amount of time, growing up through the business as well. You know, were there any little challenges or behind the scenes challenges that you didn't foresee being challenges for you?
Yeah, I think just getting used to like the rhythm of the year, like as a teacher and choreographer, your year working on a studio is very different. You have your choreography and you have your weekly classes and you pick costumes and music and you make up choreography for recital. So you have kind of like a different task list than like the studio director would. And I also still teach and choreograph at the studio, so I had to get used to having that task list as a teacher choreographer and then add on the task list of a studio director and learning how to manage those tasks and kind of like meshing them together. that was definitely something I had to get used to. Definitely the like admin side of it and the emails, that was a major thing. Keeping up on that, keeping communication to clients, to faculty is so important. So it was trying to manage my time, figuring that out as well. But I would say that those are kind of the two main things that I had to kind of figure out how to mesh.
So obviously you've alluded to this being a quick transition, you taking over the business and kind of navigating your way. When you found out that you were taking over the business and that you were going to be handling the business side of it, did you enroll in any business related classes, communications related classes to navigate, or how did you figure that out?
Yeah, so I don't have a business, like a degree per se, or I didn't take any courses. Like I said, it was so fast, I didn't have much time to do that right away, or to like learn a little bit about kind of business before I jumped into owning a business. But like I said earlier, I definitely had a lot of help along the way to understand like the business practices. My parents own a business, so they have been such a great resource helping me. I've definitely sought like legal help and other things like that to get me more familiar with different practices. And definitely even like other studio directors, there's so many like resources out there for studio directors, like Facebook. There's a few things I've connected to where you can reach out with your questions. I have a few colleagues as well that are studio owners, so I definitely had a lot of conversations with them, what works for them, what doesn't, and definitely on the business side as well to ask some questions. But it definitely helped that there was already a business model in place, and then I could dive in slowly, figure out every business practice, and then kind of as the years go by, slowly make little changes here and there, make it my own, and just make it feel really comfortable for me that I can answer any questions and I really know like the ins and outs of my business. That's like super important to me.
And I think asking questions of others and asking for help can be an intimidating thing. How do you combat that?
Yeah, so I think like to me, knowledge is power. Like I want to keep learning and learning and learning. I think everyone over the years, you can learn so much more about your business and about yourself. And like as the world changes, you need to kind of work with the world and how it's changing to change your business, and not change your business, but kind of like modify for sure. So I kind of just dove in with a few questions I had for a few people, and they were super helpful. And super sweet, and they've definitely kept the door open if I ever have any questions that I can reach out, which is great.
That is incredible. Shay, thank you so much. We will be right back with Shaylin Venedam of Port Perry Dance Academy.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Hi, I'm Jackie Hermans, the host of Uxbridge Scugog Live, where we talk about everything going on in your community, from events to programs, new products, new businesses. If something is going down in the community, we're going to let you know about it, only on Rogers TV.
Hey, I'm Chef Corey Dern, host of a show on Rogers TV Georgina called Cooking with Corey. Join me bi-weekly for brand new episodes where I teach you not only what to cook, but how to cook. The only thing missing is smell-o-vision. That's Cooking with Corey right here on Rogers TV Georgina.
Was that 4 or 5? He's lost count and still thinks he can drive. Do you think he knows that when he is caught and charged with impaired driving, he'll lose his license and a lot more? If he gets in his car, he'll face costs exceeding $20,000. Does he realize he could have a criminal record for his choice to drive? And it could be much worse if he crashes. Wonder what he'll be thinking tomorrow.
Have a hold on 115.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive so.
This is Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Modern Business, the show that bridges the gap between viewer and entrepreneur. I'm your host, Taylor Bursey, and we are joined by Shaylin Venedam of Port Perry Dance Academy. Now, Shay, when you take over a business, I'm sure it's a little intimidating with all the avenues that you have to take over and now be responsible for. Was there a position or an aspect of the business that you immediately hired outside help for because you knew, oh, it's a little too far out of my comfort zone?
Yeah, so not right away. I felt like I really had to have a hand in all aspects of the business to really feel comfortable with all those aspects. Definitely like social media I took over, the website I took over. One thing that was delegated, we have a wonderful administrator who's been with us for a few years. I definitely worked with her to delegate what tasks she could handle more and which ones I could handle more. So she tackles more of the day-to-day, that kind of thing, and like our competition registrations. So I think that was the major thing that we kind of went through, and I kind of delegated tasks there. But overall, I kind of took over all aspects so I could really get a handle on the business itself.
The holistic viewpoint, if you will.
Yes, the whole view for sure.
I love that. And I think it's very important for small business owners to be well-versed in every aspect of their business, even the things that they don't necessarily like.
Yes, for sure.
Because at the end of the day, who's more invested in your business than yourself?
I completely agree, yes.
Now, the one thing with a physical business, right? Dance is a physical sport or art, if you will. There's obviously a component of liability there. Did you assume the liability structure that the previous owner had, or did you look into new practices and procedures for yourself?
Yeah, so I assumed the old one that they had. I reached out to them. They're a local company, and I definitely got a full briefing from them. We went in depth, kind of what's covered, how I'm covered, how the business is covered. And they've been super helpful along the way. And when we do things like the Santa Claus Parade or our recitals, they definitely help me set up those kind of insurance policies. And I can reach out to them anytime, and they've been really great at getting back to me. So as soon as I kind of had that first contact with them, it definitely felt like the right thing to do, the right company to be with. So I still have the same company as before.
That's amazing. And I think you alluded to it there, but it's really important to protect yourself, right?
Yeah.
Especially being young and having this business, you want to make sure that all aspects are protected and everyone's safe in this capacity.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's shift gears a little bit. When you took over the Dance Academy, you had to market your services and your business. How did you tackle that?
Yeah, so a few ways we market is definitely through social media. Over the past few years, Instagram's become super popular. So I think Instagram was the first social media platform that I tried to kind of enhance and play with our brand a little bit more. When I took over the business, I definitely made a new logo, just a new fresh logo. My sister-in-law helped me design that. That was a really fun process, and she's a super talented graphic designer. So I was able to use that logo to kind of rebrand the company, and then rebrand the Instagram, rebrand our Facebook, and then sometimes on Instagram, like I'll do those promote ads to see if we get traction from those. Some track more than others, but it's definitely a way to kind of get those posts out there and cover like a larger audience. We definitely post on Facebook and in the Port Perry Bulletin, groups like that, to kind of get more eyes on us. And then the website was another big thing. I took over the old website, and it was
managed by a third party?
Yeah, so it was managed by a third party, but I quickly realized I needed to be able to go in and edit it. at first on a weekly basis, editing schedules and editing like faculty descriptions and like their biographies. So I'm still using the same business, but I was able to redo the website, and I'm able to go in and kind of change it at any point in time. So I rebranded the website, and then definitely our merchandise. I created kind of a new line of merchandise last season. I just released another one for this season so that everyone can represent PPDA at the studio around the town. And definitely word of mouth has been great as well.
So do you dabble in any kind of traditional marketing? So newspapers, TV, radio, anything like that?
So we do a short little blip in Focus on Scugog. I find that has definitely brought clientele in. When people register with us, they're able to put kind of where they kind of got recommendations for the studio. And sometimes I see Focus on Scugog, so I've definitely been keeping kind of our ads in the paper. Otherwise, I'm not familiar yet with kind of radio or like TV broadcasting. I think that's something that I'd really have to look at before I delved into that. So I'm definitely comfortable with the social media side with it, so I was definitely sticking to that for now.
Sure, and if it works for you, it works for you.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're in a new age of advertising and marketing, and social media, especially for service-based businesses, is extremely successful.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about the rebrand of the logo. That was probably one of your first major changes, it sounds like.
Yes, it was. I didn't go in making a whole lot of changes, but that was definitely something that was important to me, to kind of personalize for me. So I brought my sister-in-law, Logan, a couple different designs, just what I was thinking. Of course, I'm no graphic designer, so I was like, here is what I'm thinking. Can you come up with a few things and then we'll go from there? So she came back with a few different logos, and we made a few little changes. And then she was able to do them like in a few different colors, a few different designs, just so with marketing, we're able to play with a few different logos to keep everything kind of fresh and fun. And it definitely works when we're promoting on social media.
And do you think redesigning the logo helped to reinforce that we're moving in a new but similar direction with a new but similar owner?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Keeping the name Port Perry Dance Academy was super important to me. I think for a few reasons. I love Port Perry, I live in Port Perry, I'm so proud of our community in our town, so I wanted to keep the dance academy named Port Perry Dance Academy to kind of give homage to our town, and that I'm so proud of it. Also, it's been in business before I took it over 20 years, so Port Perry Dance Academy kind of has a reputation, and everyone knows the name in town, and when we go to competition, so I wanted to kind of keep the legacy of the Port Perry Dance Academy there, and the reputation that it already has. It's already been established. So as soon as I decided that I wanted to keep that, I was like, okay, but a way to kind of make that my own, to start to make the business my own, I decided that what better way than to make a nice, fresh, new logo.
And what were some of the other small, tangible changes that you made early on to make the business your own?
I think merchandise was a big one. I was able to use our new logo, which was a nice transition into the new merchandise. So people were excited about that. The kids were excited about that. These are our competition jackets. So I had new competition jackets made. So that was fun for the kids to go to competition. And we're still the Port Perry Dance Academy, but we just have like that fresh new look. Some other things this year, we've been doing some kind of changes around the studio and painting. And so that's been exciting, but major changes, I wouldn't say that there was anything major. Our year is still going the same. There's like a few changes, a few different competitions we're going to, a few competitions that I judge, that I love, that I want our students to experience and our faculty to experience. So there's definitely been a lot of little things along the way, but I think the logo and the merch was like the first big change.
And what do you have planned for the next couple of years? Do you have a roadmap of where you want to go and the changes that you are looking to make?
Yes and no. I think I'm still in the figuring out stages and putting down like my roadmap for the year and like looking back on my first year and looking at if there's any little changes I want to do from last year. So I think I'm still looking at it as like a 1 year process. I think over the next few years, we have a beautiful big facility. I'd love to get more registrations and more kids in dancing, especially after COVID. I think everyone's still building their numbers up. So I definitely just want to keep expanding the studio that way and get dancers in the studio and registrations for sure.
And are you looking at tackling any new types of dancing as well with your studio, or are you going to stick with the traditional programming that they've had?
I think we'll stick with the traditional programming. I honestly haven't thought too much into that topic. That's definitely something that I can consider too. And I think every year, even after the first year, I noticed some classes are popular than others. So then this year I did more of those classes and maybe took away other classes. I think year to year you get a feel for if like your clientele is changing what they're looking for. So I think that's helpful to take a step back every year and be like, okay, what were the classes that people loved? Can we do more of those classes? Can we offer it from like a younger age? So I definitely made a few of those changes this year, and I'll be looking at it every year moving forward.
That's incredible. Now, Shay, do you have a trade tip for our audience today? A piece of advice that you've been given, a piece of advice that you'd like to give, or just a general tidbit of information you want to share?
Yeah, I think I have a few. My first one is let passion drive you. I think there's always going to be bumps in the road. There's always going to be things to figure out as a small business owner. But if you let that passion kind of move you and move your business into the direction you want it to go, that's always going to help you kind of see clearly and stay focused on what really matters and the things that really matter to you and matter about your business. The second thing I would say is communication is key. I learned that very early on, and it creates like a really nice foundation for your business. And it creates great rapport with your clientele, with your faculty, just keeping super clear lines of communication. And I think the last thing is just work-life balance. I think this is the type of industry you could be working all the time. You can be answering emails all the time. There's always really a to-do. There's a lot that happens through the year. So I think it's just finding that work-life balance of, okay, what are my, because it's not like a traditional business where you have like those set hours, like the 9 to 5. So I think it's just working with what works for you and when you can kind of shut your emails down for the night and what tasks need to be done that day, that week, that month, and not getting stressed about what needs to happen kind of 3 months down the road. I think you always need to be thinking ahead in this business, but you also need that healthy work-life balance for sure.
Very insightful. Thank you so much, Shay. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Yeah. This has been another edition of Modern Business. I'm your host, Taylor Bursey, and we'll talk to you next time.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Watching hockey just got a power play with NHL Center Ice and Super Sports Pack. With up to 37 out-of-market NHL games a week, you'll always catch your favorite team